It's Tuesday, April 14th. In the headlines, gunfire at St. Andrew party sparks new firearm restrictions. Jamaica Carnival supports more than 100,000 jobs. In business news, small business associations agree to partner. Regionally, the new Caribbean Export Academy to be anchored in Trinidad and Tobago. And in sports, Reggae Girls to face Guyana on Saturday. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Tax Administration Jamaica is advising taxpayers that the income tax threshold has been increased effective April 1, 2026 to $1,902,360, up from $1,799,376. The adjustment follows an announcement by Finance Minister Favor Williams during the 2025 budget presentation, outlining a phased increase in the tax-free threshold between 2025 and 2028, with a long-term target of $2 million. TAJ notes that the effective tax-free amount for the full 2026 year is $1.8 million. Reflecting the mid-year implementation of the change. The increase represents the second phase of the planned adjustments and will result in higher tax-free earnings for both employed and self-employed persons. The change will deliver estimated annual savings of $25,518 per taxpayer, or about $490.73 weekly. $981.46 fortnightly, and $2,126.50 monthly. Tax authorities are urging taxpayers and employers to update payroll systems and financial planning to reflect the revised threshold. Carnival Jamaica is delivering a massive boost to the country's economy, generating an estimated $165.7 billion in total economic impact in 2025, up from $95.4 billion in 2024, while supporting more than 115,000 jobs and attracting thousands of high-spending international visitors. We have more in this report.
There are moments when numbers do more than measure performance. They reveal direction. They show momentum. And sometimes they confirm that what a country has built with instinct, culture, and effort has now matured into a serious economic force. Carnival in Jamaica is a homegrown experience that turns culture into growth, creativity into commerce, and local energy into global demand. But beyond the spectacle, Carnival is doing serious economic work for Jamaica. It is generating spending, supporting jobs, energizing small businesses, strengthening supply chains, and creating demand for Kingston and for Jamaica. Carnival in Jamaica is no longer simply a seasonal celebration. It has matured into a powerful tourism and economic asset with measurable national impact. In 2025, Carnival in Jamaica generated $165.7 billion Jamaican dollars in total economic output. That is up from $111.7 billion in 2024 and represents an increase of nearly 48% in a single year. That is not marginal growth. that is acceleration. That is a signal of an event that has moved well beyond entertainment and firmly into the territory of national economic significance. Direct spending related to Carnival reached 7.7 billion Jamaica dollars in 2025. Local revelers, approximately 7,400 of them, spent an average of 433,302 Jamaican dollars each, contributing roughly 3.1 billion Jamaican dollars in direct economic activity. International patrons, about 5,400 visitors, spent an average of US $5,320.89 each, with total direct visitor spending reaching 23.6 million US, or approximately 3.76 billion Jamaican dollars. Numbers like that do not whisper, they shout. They tell policymakers, investors, and partners that Carnival is not just culturally exciting, it makes solid economic sense. That money did not stop at the gate. It moves through hotels and villas, restaurants and bars, transportation providers, retail outlets, event production, beauty and wellness services, food suppliers, costume design, security, logistics, and entertainment. So that is the kind of circular economy we want tourism to create.
New restrictions on firearms at entertainment venues are in the works, following a shooting at a post-carnival event in St. Andrew on the weekend. Reports from the Jamaica Constabulary Force says the incident happened Sunday night at the Ranny Williams Entertainment Center during the Big Wall party. 3 people were shot. Police report that around 9:30 p.m., a physical altercation broke out among patrons. The dispute escalated, resulting in an exchange of gunfire between individuals. When the shooting ended, 3 persons, 2 of whom were involved in the altercation, were found suffering from gunshot wounds. They have been identified as podcaster J.D. Jeffrey Richards, Trevor Chum Twait, who is reportedly a member of entertainer 450's entourage, and a bystander, Jeremy Watson. Lawmen also seized 2 firearms in connection with the incident. Another man has been taken into custody, but his identity is being withheld as investigations continue. The probe is being led by the Halfway Tree Criminal Investigation Branch. Jamaica is set to observe National School Moves Day later this month, with a renewed push to get students more physically active and promote healthier school environments. The initiative, scheduled for Friday, April 24, 2026, will be observed under the theme, Every School Moving. Move your way every day. It forms part of the Jamaica Moves in Schools program and aims to increase awareness about the importance of regular physical activity, while encouraging schools to build movement into their daily routines. The effort is being led by Ministry of Health and Wellness in partnership with the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. As the world observes Autism Awareness Month, one Tobagonian mother has proven the importance of early diagnosis, intervention, and support. Here's Luann Gardner's story of her experience raising a child with autism and the lessons learned along the way.
Many believe parents of autistic children only experience frustration, worry, and even confusion. However, this is not the case. TTT News had the opportunity to chat with Luann Gardner, mother of 6-year-old Levi Gardner, who was diagnosed with autism 3 years ago.
I would have noticed that he did some little, what we would call some weird things. All right, he started lining up the toys. When you give him blocks, the typical child would stack the blocks. He would line them up by colors and stuff like that. And they're walking on the tippy toes. Sometimes you're talking to him, you'll quickly look away. So, being a teacher, I would have taught at the early childhood level and also now at the primary school level. Being around children, you tend to know what is normal or what isn't a little normal. So, seeing all of these things, it would have prompted me to say, maybe I should have him checked out.
Mrs. Gardner, an educator by profession, documented Levi's behaviors and, along with her husband, prepared for whatever diagnosis they might receive. After noticing delays in his speech, she sought speech therapy.
From speech therapy, then I looked into occupational therapy, and it took a little while, but eventually I got into the child development clinic. And that is where he was diagnosed in February of 2023. He was on his way to 4 years old. The day of the diagnosis, I can't say that I was very surprised. And maybe because I would have seen the signs before, I was sort of prepared. So the diagnosis was just confirmation for me. All right. My husband wasn't there at the time, but as soon as I got the information, I called him and I told him. And he himself, he wasn't surprised because, as I said, we would have seen the things before. So we kind of knew what was coming. All right. I think we were actually preparing ourselves even before we got a diagnosis.
Levi was officially diagnosed with autism in February 2023. While Mrs. Gardner acknowledged that every parent's experience with an autistic child is different, she noted that early intervention proved beneficial for her son.
I was never in denial. So when I got the diagnosis, that morning, I took him to school. He went to mainstream preschool, a government early childhood center. And I called the teachers together and I told them, aunties, this is what's happening. Levi was diagnosed today and this is how we're going to move forward. They were very open-minded and they were able to work with the speech therapist. So when she gave me strategies, I would pass it on to them and they assisted. So he went to mainstream preschool, but now that he's in primary school level, I opted to take him to a private setting where he could get that more one-on-one attention. And he is excelling there. If I must say, he's now at Westside Prep and doing fabulous.
Mrs. Gardner stressed that autism is not a death sentence, noting that her family has celebrated several milestones in Levi's development.
I call him my little butterfly. He's very energetic. He moves a lot. But when he did the first year of preschool, we were observing the second year. Usually you come out in 2 years. I didn't see enough language development, so I asked them to keep him a third year. And I thank God that was a good choice. At the end of the third year, at his graduation, he was able to read out a poem, by himself on the stage there. I was brought to tears. And from there, he moved on to the primary school where he's now playing pan. A few weeks ago, I just asked the pan tutor, send me a little video, let me see how he's going in the pan. And to my surprise, he was there playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. He's moving on to learning the national anthem.
As the world observes Autism Awareness Month, Mrs. Gardner noted that the observance provides additional support for parents of autistic children.
Autism is all year for us autism parents, but the month is that time when we really zone in and we bring in others to see what we go through or what we expect society to, or how we expect them to support us raising these children.
Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing you the developments shaping markets, capital access, and business decision-making across Jamaica and the region. Let's get into the stories that matter. To strengthen Jamaica's MSME sector, the Small Business Association of Jamaica, the MSME Alliance, and the Young Entrepreneurs Association of Jamaica have agreed to jointly develop and promote a coordinated policy agenda aimed at driving inclusive growth and development. The decision follows discussions among the leadership of the three organizations, which they say signals a move toward a more unified and structured approach to policy advocacy and implementation. SBAJ President Garnet Reed said the partnership highlighted the importance of unity in strengthening the sector's lobbying power. For her part, Cordell Williams, president of YEA, said the collaboration was expected to enhance the sector's impact on national policy making. President of the MSME Alliance, Antoinette Houghton, added that the joint effort was expected to create a stronger, more coordinated platform for engaging policymakers. For the trading period of April 13, 2026, the most actively traded securities were Trans-Jamaica Highway Limited with 8,513,651 units comprising 28.08% of market sales activities. Kintyre Holdings Jamaica Limited with 4,471,813 units representing 14.22% of market sales activities. Supreme Ventures Limited with 3,843,167 units, representing 12.22% of market sales activities. Investor activity remained concentrated in manufacturing, solar energy, and transportation plays, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market based on Bank of Jamaica data for April 13, 2026, Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. For the US dollar, trading margins reflected steady liquidity with the US selling at $156.89 and buying at $159.09. Moderate gains for the Canadian dollar supported by 26-cent transaction spreads. The Canadian dollar sold for $115.10 and was bought for $115.36. Continued volatility offered short-term trading opportunities for the British pound of $6.09 in profits for the bank. The British pound sold for $209.05 and was bought for $215.14. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing, currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, we have been looking at why there are times you don't need your credit report. And this is where the strategic use of margin loans require discipline and risk awareness. While margin loans offer flexibility, they must be used carefully. Why? Because they're backed by your investments. So the up and down market fluctuations of the stock market or the bond market can reduce your portfolio value and trigger a margin call in which the bank says, listen, you need to top up your collateral. This may force you to sell assets. Also, think about interest costs because they apply. So the advantage becomes how to use the tool strategically. So you want to maintain a strong portfolio, you want to borrow conservatively, and ensure that the capital you access is used for productive reasons. And that's it for today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing clarity to capital, markets, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
In regional news, in a bid to boost exports from Trinidad and Tobago manufacturers, the newly elected president of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Karen Yip Chuck, has announced plans to establish a Caribbean Export Academy based in Trinidad and Tobago. Sunil Lala brings us more.
Through CariCham, a network of Caribbean chambers, we are building stronger business connectivity across the region and actively developing a Caribbean Export Academy to be anchored here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Incoming president of the TNT Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Karen Yipchak, has placed export development and regional competitiveness at the center of her leadership agenda. Ms. Yipchak announced a major initiative aimed at producing globally competitive Caribbean exporters. She believes that the private sector must lead the way, noting that this encompasses the role of the TNT Chamber.
It means partnership with our SMEs, the businesses that are the engine room of this economy, the ones that create employment at the community level and carry the daily weight of national economic activity. Partnership with medium-sized enterprises, the companies in transition, navigating the complex space between growth and scale, often underserved and overexposed. Partnership with our large companies and conglomerates, the anchors of stability, the mentors of the next generation.
However, she said the Chamber's role must fundamentally change.
This is where the Chamber must evolve as the voice of business to a platform for resilience, a hub for intelligence, a catalyst for growth, and a partner in national transformation. In this regard, we align closely with the government's revitalization vision, an agenda aimed at strengthening economic resilience, improving productivity, diversifying our economic base, and positioning Trinidad and Tobago for sustainable growth in a rapidly changing world.
She noted that the private sector has a critical role to play in that vision, assuring that the Chamber will lead in mobilizing that role. Ms. Yipchak identified 5 persistent barriers affecting local firms, led by foreign exchange constraints and the rising cost of doing business, alongside weaknesses in trade facilitation. She pointed to widening skills and productivity gaps, compounded by limited access to growth finance and market intelligence for firms seeking to scale and export.
These are operational realities. And as the president of the Chamber, I intend to ensure that these issues are not simply raised, but pursued, addressed, and where possible, alleviated through structured engagement, evidence-based advocacy, and practical recommendations that can improve the climate for business.
The Chamber president said the Chamber will now function not just as an advocacy body, but as an operational support system for businesses navigating volatility and risk.
The truth is, we know the constraints. We all understand the gaps, but we have the capacity to fix them. So the question is no longer what is wrong. The question is whether we are prepared to execute.
Supporters of the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party failed a rally in a show of strength ahead of the general election as Prime Minister Gaston Brown highlighted the government's record on infrastructure, water access, and tourism growth. Party delegates also confirmed candidates and ratified the executive team while reaffirming Brown as a political leader. ABS News' Theresa Goodwin reports.
Delegates and party supporters packed the venue, waving flags, blowing whistles, and celebrating what party officials described as a period of significant national interest. Prime Minister and ABLP leader Gaston Brown delivered an address highlighting the administration's record. He pointed to advancements in infrastructure, including road development and expanded access to potable water, as well as continued growth in tourism arrivals.
The core competence that we enjoy in this country today is the issue of leadership. Leadership that delivers. And let us be clear, none of it is an accident. It takes strong leadership, competent leadership. It takes steady hands, and certainly visionary leadership backed by action.
Brown also paid tribute to long-serving members of the party, acknowledging their role in what he described as the renaissance of the labor movement. Party Chairman E.P. Chetgrade indicated the party's slogan, Renaissance, a New Era, is a call to national renewal, urging citizens to build on proven achievements and trust in leadership.
It is a firm and confident statement that Antigua and Barbuda is not starting over. We are not standing still. We are moving forward, rising higher, advancing to a new level of prosperity, dignity, opportunity, creativity, and national confidence.
He adds that this renaissance is not only about economic growth or numbers, but about the soul of the nation.
It's about building a country that is wealthier and stronger in spirit, more modern and more grounded in identity, more prosperous and more just, more successful and indeed more beautiful.
Another highlight was the official confirmation of candidates who will represent the party in the upcoming general election. Delegates also ratified senior executive positions within the organization. This process was handled by General Secretary Shanella Gavaya, who succeeds Mary Claire Hurst, who spent over a decade in the post.
Be it resolved that the Central Executive agrees by acclamation Comrade Gaston Brown to retain the position of political leader. Comrade E.P. Chet Green to retain the position of chairman.
The other positions include First Vice Chair Samantha Marshall, Clement Antonio as Second Vice Chair, Donna Shire as Third Vice Chairman, Abina St. Louis Treasurer Mary Edwards as the APLP Supervisor of Elections, and Angelica O'Donoghue to serve as Public Relations Officer. Theresa Goodwin, ABS News.
In sports, we feature football. Reggae Girls are set to go up against Guyana in their next CONCACAF Women's Qualifiers fixture on Saturday at the National Stadium. Dancehall artist Vybz Kartel is urging patrons to come out and support the women's team. He voiced his support in a post on social media.
Sending us up to the time, Vybz Kartel, I represent for the biggest match in a woman football, Jamaica versus Guyana. I make sure all are there. I went to EJ. Saturday, what time? 7. It's football heaven. Big up Bonisha and the whole Jamaica team. We're outside Saturday. What is under me nose? Come on.
Meanwhile, head coach Hubert Busby is pleased with the girls' showing so far. Speaking with the press following their recent 4-0 victory over Antigua and Barbuda, he said the team showed resilience despite missed chances and late adjustments.
So again, it just shows the resiliency of the group. And as I said to him afterwards, a total team performance. We talk about our starters and our finishers and those who came on, obviously impacted the game, but also took the game over the line. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take an entire team effort of 23, 26 players, whatever it takes for us to get to this World Cup and for us to be successful.
And that's the news on PBCJ. Pleasant viewing.